The fight against Elesh Norn is about to hit its most crucial point to date as heroic planeswalkers invade the enemy's home of New Phyrexia. Though we have learned through the tragedy of Ajani Goldmane that not all allies are to be wholly trusted. The reach of the Phyrexians is far, deep, and unpredictable. Who are the completed planeswalkers in Phyrexia All Will Be One? Hey everyone, Simon here again bringing you more Magic the Gathering lore. Today I'll be doing more of a speculation video based on new information we got from our very first preview of Phyrexia All Will Be One. From what Wizards of the Coast has shown us, this set will be stuffed with Planeswalker characters. 10 in total will appear in the set. But they also hinted that not all of them will be fighting on the same side. In fact, half of them are going to be completed during the set's story. And there's no telling just how many are already sleeper agents looking to disrupt the hero's operations on New Phyrexia. So let me go through each and explain which ones I believe will be Phyrexianized. The 10 planeswalkers we'll see in Phyrexia All Will Be One are laid out in the stories of the previous sets, back even to Kaldheim, where the Phyrexian arc really started to be fleshed out. With Dominaria United and the Brothers' War, the strategy of stopping New Phyrexia on their home turf was established, and with it, our initial strike force of planeswalkers. The 10 brave or foolish planeswalkers who we'll see in Phyrexia All Will Be One are Jace, Kaito Shizuki, Kaya, Koth, Lukka, Nahiri, Nissa, Tyvar Kell, Vraska, and the Wandering Emperor, also known as the Wanderer. And 5 of these are either sleeper agents now or will be completed over the course of this story. The only question left is, who? My first prediction for completed walkers is going to be a gut punch to many OGs of the story, right from the very start of Planeswalkers really making an impact on the lore. I believe a founding member of the Gatewatch, the elf Nissa Compleated, will be Phyrexianized in All Will Be One. Now, I don't have any evidence that suggests that she's already a sleeper agent, but remember, these signs are very subtle if they exist at all. Think back to Ajani Goldmane. Rather, it's her current position in the story that makes me think that this is the next step for her character. Nissa Compleated has sort of run her course story-wise. Her initial story beat was all about rescuing her home of Zendikar from the Eldrazi Titans who she released. With the Eldrazi Titans dealt with, Nissa just went about with the Gatewatch acting as a plane interpreter, talking to the world souls of various planes that they visited and generally being the green-aligned nature perspective of the group. With her breaking with the Gatewatch, her last real beat was helping to heal her home of Zendikar from the scars left by the Eldrazi, and she was successful in that. All in all, aside from maybe a story of her and Chandra being romantically involved, or not, I don't know what Wizards is going to do with that, honestly. Nissa as a character has no obvious plot direction. Plus, removing her means more screen time for their new favorite mono-green planeswalker, who will also at some point be involved in this Phyrexian storyline, and that's Vivien Reid. Meaning that Nissa Compleated is expendable, making her a prime completion suspect. This next pick will probably come as less of a surprise. I've never really liked Lukka as a character, even when he was introduced back in Ikoria Lair of Behemoths. His character is just weird, and what they use him for is just odd. He was supposed to be a sympathetic character, someone ostracized from society because he can bond with creatures and have them as companions. But even with that arguably cute characteristic, Lukka just goes full-on villain in almost every story he's in. He uses his powers to force beasts to attack enemies and then just leaves them to their fates. He's overly disgruntled with every facet of structural power that he blindly fights against it regardless of the motivations of those he's fighting alongside with. That second part comes in big during the Strixhaven story as he literally attacks a school of kids at the random behest of some secret dark society because that school represented the elites. He literally was willing to burn down an entire city back on Ikoria just because he wasn't accepted. What happened to Lukka was wrong, but his response is even worse. He's also had some weird complications, as there was a great disconnect between what was written in the actual storylines for the sets that he was represented in compared to the feel the players got when looking at cards depicting his artwork or flavor text. To a lot of players, myself included, if you just looked at the cards for Ikoria, you truly believed Lukka was acting as a hero. He was like a less buff version of Garruk Wildspeaker. He was protecting cute little animals, great majestic beasts, from the tyranny of humans who oppressed and hated them. At least that's what the cards depicted. But as it turns out, if you actually read the written material for Ikoria, Lukka is kind of a weird homicidal jerk, and was actually written, in fact, to be the villain of that story. He just has this really bad habit of completely misjudging the people that he's rolling with, thinking he's fighting on the right side only for it to turn out that he's actually just being a jackass. Besides being an odd character, how he arrived on Dominaria with the initial strike force is kinda sus. After being defeated in Strixhaven, the leader he served gave him something of value. We don't know what that is though. He's then seen just wandering the desert scrounging for food. All of a sudden, he's now fighting with the Gatewatch against New Phyrexia? What I think is that Lukka has already been completed, possibly by Extus Snar as his gift, or maybe by the mysterious Planeswalker force he encountered while on Ikoria known as the Ozolith. Either way, this guy may think he's the hero who just finds himself fighting on the wrong side, but in All Will Be One, I think his true colors will be shown. A relative newcomer to the MTG story, I think Kaito from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty could be one of Elesh Norn's minions. Introduced in our Return to the Plane of Kamigawa, this character is closely tied to another Planeswalker joining us on New Phyrexia, the Wandering Emperor. These two were friends in their youth as they trained and grew close without Kaito realizing that she was in fact the young Emperor of Kamigawa. His story begins as the Wanderer's Planeswalker spark ignites and becomes unpredictable. She cannot control her planeswalking, and she jumps at random. Kaito spends the rest of his days searching for her, not knowing that she was actually far from Kamigawa. The reason why I think Kaito makes a good candidate for completion is that it would help to propel both his and the Wanderer's stories into the future. Although they have been reunited, the Wanderer's spark is still unstable. Though the reality chip offered some regularity during the Kamigawa story, that has since vanished. So their story now hinges on finding a fix for the Wanderer's spark, all while striking back at the Phyrexians who attacked them on Kamigawa. There's still so much we don't know about the Wandering Emperor, and her irregular spark makes her a less strategically important target for the Phyrexians. But by completing Kaito, we'll see a new motivation for the Wanderer and possibly new story beats, providing new information on her as a whole. Besides plot reasons, I think Kaito makes a good completion target because of his very nature, being a son of Kamigawa. Neon Dynasty saw a lot of tech being infused and interlaced throughout Kaito's character design. He even got his spark from a Kami encased in a mech suit, essentially. As Phyrexians already deal in the organic and metal merging, Kaito, much like Tezzeret, is basically halfway there. Plus, we get an adorable Phyrexianized Himoto, the Kami of the Spark in the tech Tanuki suit. And honestly, can anyone tell me they don't want that, really? This next pick of mine will also come as no big surprise, as she follows the same points I brought up with Lukka and Nissa. Nahiri to me is a perfect option for a completed Planeswalker because, in my opinion, her story has been exhausted. Nahiri, much like Nissa, was heavily tied to the Eldrazi attacking her home of Zendikar, only she focused on blind vengeance. She attacked those Planeswalkers she deemed responsible for Zendikar's destruction, namely Sorin Markov, rather than Nissa, who actually released them, and despite the fact that Zendikar survived. In this, Nahiri is similar to Lukka, beginning their journey as sort of a sympathetic figure to the audience, only to go pure dark side. Her rage left the former guardian of Zendikar without a story direction once her justice was met out. which it was in Eldritch Moon. Nissa and Nahiri do end up butting heads in Zendikar Rising, as both try to heal their plane, but in different ways. With Nissa trying the more naturalistic method of healing the scars naturally, letting the wild royals remain, well, wild, and Nahiri again took the darker route and wanted to legit just kill the world soul of Zendikar, by that ending the chaotic royals and in her mind settling the plane and healing it. Nahiri, however, was stopped, and now she joins the Gatewatch alongside Nissa? Okay. What makes this turnabout less likely is the one who actually recruited her for this mission, Jace Compleated. He was involved in the story of Zendikar Rising as well, sort of helping Nahiri, alienating Nissa, who had left the Guild Pact even further. Though all Jace wanted to do was to understand more thoroughly the powers that they were dealing with, Nissa saw it as a betrayal. Ultimately, it was Jace who stopped Nahiri, who was growing rather desperate in her fight against Nissa by controlling her mind. Nissa won, saved Zendikar her way, and Nahiri planeswalked from her home, literally cursing Jace's name and vowing revenge. The next time we see her, she just sets aside her previous grudges with both Jace and Nissa to fight an unknown threat to her? Yeah, I'm not buying it. My prediction is that Nahiri is already a sleeper agent for the Phyrexians. When this may have happened is anyone's guess, but I just don't see any real reason story-wise why Nahiri would join this team on this particular mission. Jace asking her alone is even more suspicious, and her accepting the invitation may point to an even more startling betrayal. But for me, the combination of an exhausted character who is rather evil combined with little realistic purpose for her involvement in the Phyrexian story tells me that Nahiri is likely a Phyrexian sleeper agent. My final pick for the completed Planeswalkers in Phyrexia, all will be one, is certainly going to get me in some hot water with at least a few of you guys. And that's because I think it's going to be Jace Compleated who meets his end on New Phyrexia. Or at the very least is temporarily Phyrexianized until he's cured, depending on just how hard Wizards decides to go with this story. Now, a lot of you in the Vorthos community are probably thinking something along the lines of, oh, hey Simon, Jace is the face of MTG, their poster child, they can't complete him, oh no! But let's just step back and take a look at that statement. Is Jace really the current poster child of MTG? Yeah, sure, he's a founding member of the Gatewatch, but since their initial mission on Zendikar, and through the events of War of the Spark, the group has been splintered and reformed a number of times. I get it, the whole idea of the Jace League as a funny meme back in the Battle for Zendikar block, it had some truth to it. But look at the marketing material in recent sets. Jace just isn't as prominent of a character as he once was, even within the stories that he appeared in. And to those who think they won't kill off a powerful founding member of the Gatewatch, a leader of the group, Gideon would beg to differ. But aside from Jace just not being as popular as he had been in the past, why else would I think he's likely to be completed? Well, it comes down to Wizards of the Coast actually making a good decision in the story. I know, shocking given the quality we've seen in recent big ticket plots. But with New Phyrexia, I actually have, dare I say it, faith in the Wizard story team? What I mean is, War of the Spark, the previous huge plotline Magic the Gathering concluded, was such a massive flop for numerous reasons. In fact, it's not hyperbole to say that War of the Spark almost killed the lore of MTG forever. Like, there was a non-zero chance that Wizards was just going to axe that department and continue on with no story beats whatsoever. Seeing how Theros Beyond Death shortly after that had its total story wiped out, it was a real possibility looking back. One of the main glaring issues I and others in the community had was the sheer lack of consequences. This was Nicol Bolas on the cusps of achieving godhood, machinations taking place over countless centuries, all colliding to this singular moment. Bolas had to kill planeswalkers to fulfill his plan. And who died in this epic war? 3 planeswalkers. 3. Just 3. Of course, they tried to tidy it up saying, oh, a bunch of random planeswalkers were desparked, well, we didn't know them, all that kind of stuff. It was all filler. Of course, Gideon Jorah was a huge one, but the others? Dak Faden, a lesser-known planeswalker who died off-screen and was merely only referenced, and the last being Domri Raid, An even lesser known planeswalker only tied to the Gruul clan on Ravnica with no real fanfare. Sorry Domri stans, but you're in a small pool. For what was set up, the whole story just pulled its punches, and what we got felt cheap. If Wizards of the Coast has learned anything from the debacle of War of the Spark, it's that to deliver a powerful and impactful story, you must be willing to make hard sacrifices. Death drives a compelling story. If no one faces an ultimate end, there is no sense of loss, and no sense of danger. We're obviously going to lose more Planeswalkers here on New Phyrexia than we ever did in War of the Spark. War lost a total of 3 named characters, and already we're losing 5 on top of Ajani and Tamiyo, with maybe Karn thrown in there as well since Elesh Norn dismantled him. But to have a real impact on a community, you can't just only lose foot soldiers. You can't just stick to new or evil Planeswalkers. There must be punches right to the gut. And Jace being completed would deliver just the sort of blow War of the Spark was expected to have. Phyrexia, all will be won, will succeed where War of the Spark failed, as Jace Beleren is completed. Or maybe I just have a little bit too much faith. Who knows? So there you guys go, my predictions for the 5 Planeswalkers we'll see completed in Phyrexia all will be won. Of course, now I throw it back to you guys in the comments. Who do you think will join Elesh Norn in her quest to spread the will of Phyrexia throughout the multiverse? Is there any Planeswalkers you believe to be sleeper agents right now? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, I want to thank you all so much for joining me today and indulging in my theory crafting. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more MTG lore, make sure you show your support by leaving this video a like, sharing it with friends, and hitting that subscribe button. It all goes a long way in growing our Vorthos community. And until next time, guys, see ya!